Actually, when I first started, the person who was running the orientation was like, oh, wow, like I didn't even know we had social media. They had a stat. It was like 71% of creative does absolutely nothing for a brand. So you're saying 71% of things out there, like people just scroll past.
Also, like we call this podcast visible. So much of it happens behind the scene, and often we don't get to see layers of that.
I'm Jacqui Morgan, head of social media at Palo Alto Networks.
Especially when you're doing all the visible things for a company, how do you find that time? And also the energy, like the burnout is a real thing.
I could build a community of 2 million people for a brand, but if I can't do it for myself, what does that say?
Along the way, I had become really behind the scenes. I'm kind of like not taking my own advice right there.
I think in the next year, human-generated content will be a flex. Failure is important. You need to learn fast what does not work. Perfection is unattainable. If you just do it, you're gonna learn what works. I know that I have succeeded when I get a text from other social leads in the industry. They are honestly the hardest audience.
What goes behind building great tech and bringing it to the world? It's the marketing, the product, the design, the engineering. But most importantly, it is the humans behind it. Welcome to The Visible, where we bring you the stories behind tech. The wins, the realizations, the mistakes, and the lessons. The stories that show you how great ideas really come to life. We bring you the stories behind tech so you can build, lead, and tell your story better. Hi, Jacqui. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for saying yes to this as well. Obviously, when I thought about kicking this off, you were one of the first people I thought about. So welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the first season of hopefully what would be many seasons. Just to kick things off, obviously, we've known each other for a very long time, but just for the audience, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself, what you've been up to, and how do you fit into this world of tech and cybersecurity?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored that you thought of me for this podcast. I'm Jacqui Morgan, head of social media at Palo Alto Networks. I've been working in cybersecurity probably better half of a decade. Fun fact, I started my career in social media, not in tech at all, which actually makes for a much better tech social media person, I think. I actually started my career in fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. So yeah, obviously the cloud is like so obvious.
It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, when you think about that. One of my first things I did when I started in this industry was I sat down and read a cloud report after talking about hair and shoes for the better half of the first part of my career. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I get to meet people like you, and it's been great.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think it's quite clear that you used to work in fashion. I think Jacqui is definitely one of the most fashionable people that we know in cybersecurity.
I mean, look where that's coming from, please.
So yeah, you definitely, made the right mix. And also, we call this podcast Visible, and it came from, I guess, a personal journey, something I shared on LinkedIn quite recently. It's just this whole notion of, obviously, there's a lot of great stuff that goes behind creating great tech and creating great cybersecurity companies, running cybersecurity things, but so much of it happens behind the scene, and often we don't get to see layers of that, and you definitely fit into one of those layers. You lead social media at a very large company, and often there's so much that happens behind the scenes that we don't get to see. So what does this word mean to you? Like when I say being visible, how would you define visibility, and why do you think it's important?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it's very true. Like being the social person at a company like Palo Alto Networks is very different and interesting. Actually, when I first started, I've been at the company for about 2 years, and my orientation, I was with who you would expect at orientation, sales engineers. And we went around the room and we said, what is everyone's new role? And it was my turn, and I said, I'm the new head of social media. And the person who was running the orientation was like, oh, wow, like I didn't even know we had social media. And I was like, I'm sorry. Well, great. I'm glad I'm here. But I think that is, very telling. And I think as people in the industry or outside of the industry, sometimes it's very difficult for them to understand why like a company like Palo Alto Networks would even have a robust social media presence. And arguably, it's probably one of the most, not to toot my own horn, but arguably it's probably one of the most important platforms that we do have, because it is like the front page of what we do as a brand. Yeah. And so that's what visible means to me, really, is that first step, that first place that people go, or people look into when they want to know either something about you if they've never even experienced your brand before, or if they're lifelong customers and they've learned something new just through, what we're doing across social. And then, for the people on my team, I think visibility is super important because you're right. There is so much, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure. But there is so much that goes into what you do see. That is just that is truly the final product. So having them talk about what they're doing in this industry is so important. Podcasts, meeting with people, and also having that presence on LinkedIn themselves or other platforms. It's so important because it is such a hard and different industry to be in.
Absolutely. No, I completely relate to that. And I think one of the reasons why I thought of you, because you actually do, post a lot. You talk about, your journeys. I think one of your favorite posts that I really liked was when you said, what do you think people think I do versus what I actually do? And I think it's important, right? Because for me, because I don't actually come from cybersecurity, I was in a very different field. And 6 years ago with the podcast and stuff, we made that transition. And I was blown away by what lies behind a product company, everything that goes. I'm there's so many different machines, and those machines have other machines. And you just see this product launch, but there's so much that goes behind it. So it's really quite fascinating. But just within the 6 years, it was so funny because how quickly I forgot about all of that as well, because you just get so siloed into your own little part of that as well. Going back into that post, what is a misconception that people have about your role? What do people actually think you do? Not just people in tech, but maybe even family members, when you say, this is what I do, and they're maybe you make reels all day, what does your day actually look like?
No, great question. If you ask my mom what I do, I think she would think that I'm an executive assistant somewhere, truly. Explaining cybersecurity to your family is one thing, but then social media for cybersecurity is a completely different thing. But the video that you're referring to is one of my favorites too, because I do think it's so funny that, truly, what people think I do all day is probably stalk people on LinkedIn, create reels, give feedback to creative agencies, and then call it a day. No, yes, definitely that's part of it, but everything that my team and I do on a daily basis for the social channels at Palace Networks is everything from concept to execution. And within that, there are so many layers of making sure we're meeting with the right people and talking to the right stakeholders. Because if Palace Networks as a brand gets something technically wrong, that is not a good look.
Yep.
Again, because we are that front page of the company and of the brand on social, 2 million followers on LinkedIn, that's we are the authority. Yeah. And if we have a misstep, everything is so public.
Yeah.
And that's another part that's visible, for lack of a better word, right? You are the most public, your work is the most public at a company.
Yeah.
If you make a typo, if you make a mistake, everyone sees it. Not just your boss, not just your boss's boss, but people who you have no idea who they are, who live, random people, random followers. And so that's part of the process that is a little daunting when it comes to running social for such a large brand, because it is so visible, and it is very important to get it right. But on a daily basis, I think a big part of what I like to do with my team is on the creative side. We can get really in our own way, I think, in cybersecurity, right? So it's really important to make people not only think when you are doing something different on social, but also feel something. We could talk about our products and talk about the technical aspects all day long, but are people going to remember that? So that's what I really strive to do, is bring that creativity and that forethought into everything that we do, so we actually can make people remember.
Yeah, that's so right. I think that you've touched on two very poignant things. Firstly, we talk about visibility, but also being visible means that everything that you do, even the failures, and even if you get something wrong, it is visible as well. And in your role, so much, because you are trying to make the company visible and make sure it's memorable, but then also you have to make sure that everything works well and it's right as well. And the other thing about how do you tap into an emotion, because at the moment, especially in the era that we live in, there's a lot of the content can just be out there, but it's not really tapping into an emotion, a feeling. So I think those are two very important things that you've said. Is there is that side of the coin as well. It's not just about just making yourself visible, but it's how do you find connection with people, and be, I guess, you have to be mindful of what you're posting as well, because it can carry a lot of power.
Yes.
As they say, with great power, with great visibility comes great responsibility.
But that's so true. And I work really closely with our friends at LinkedIn, obviously. And they had a stat in one of our like recent QBRs that really stuck with me. And it was like 71% of creative does absolutely nothing for a brand. And if you think about that, that is daunting.
Yeah.
Like, so you're saying 71% of things out there, like people just scroll past.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
And that is what I try and take to my team when we think about what we're trying to talk about every single day.
Yeah.
Will it fall into that 71%, or will it be in that other camp that really makes people think and stop and engage, and like therefore we can move them into different areas of our funnel? But that to me like really encapsulates like everything I try and do.
Yeah, that's I didn't know that fact. Like it's
very scary.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't know there was like a lot of content that people, and also it's like who's watching it as well, because I think something that you'd connect to, I might not, and vice versa. So everyone does have a different audience, but yeah, I didn't think it'd be 71%. So that's really interesting to share. You're definitely one of those people, especially in cybersecurity, who definitely puts, yourself out there. You share a lot of really relevant content. Like I really enjoy it. But was there a moment where you kind of decided, okay, I'm going to start putting myself out there, or I'm going to start posting this? Was it a trigger that, kind of like led you down that path, or was there a moment, or how did you become the Jacqui that you are today?
Well, I mean, that's a different podcast. No, but I think, that's a good question. I think I do fall, I mean, thank you, first of all, but also, I do fall into the camp too sometimes of truly having that social media burnout. Everything that we do is like we live and breathe platforms, and audience engagement and content and hooks and thumb stopping content. So when you get to your own personal brand, it's kind of like, I've given everything that I have to the brand. Mm-hmm. So that honestly has been really hard for me to like keep it up and to like maintain my own personal presence. And that's why I like, work with different people. Like this is a great example. Like I actually have to push myself out of my comfort zone to do it, because I would love to be behind the camera. Mm-hmm. I would love to be the admin behind the page, like fully. I don't need to be in front of the camera. My mother was an actress when I was growing up, and so she was always in front. Yeah. And like I fully am more comfortable like being the producer. But I think as people on platforms, like you have to have a brand. And that is that was the flashlight for me. I could build a community of 2 million people for a brand, but if I can't do it for myself, what does that say? So that was kind of my trigger. And, I'm learning still every day, right? Like I still can do more. And I truly think like people have said it, and I'm going to say it again, but just post it. Yeah. Truly. Like perfection is unattainable. Yeah. And if you just do it, you're going to learn what works. Absolutely. And if you're too afraid to do it, you will never learn. Yeah. So honestly, just that was it. And that's what my advice is. Just do it. Yeah. No. We're not Nike, but like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I totally relate to that because of the 2 podcasts that we've got, like we often get asked, like a lot of people would be like, I want to start a podcast. What do I do? Yeah. And early on I would go into this like, long spiel about this is what you need this. And I was like, no, actually, truly, you just need to get started and you need to keep going. And now if someone asks me, I always tell them, just start, find your niche, obviously, what do you want to talk about, start, and then keep going. At least give yourself 6 months. Don't expect things to just happen straight away, because you do need the consistency piece. Yes. So I totally relate to that. And I think that the other thing about personal brand, it's so true. And I think this whole thing kind of came from the fact that what I posted about, like, because I am the behind the scenes person at our company. Yeah. And it was so funny because like one of the guests that I met, and I actually loved the interviews that they did, and the person did not recognize, and I went like, so excited. I'm like, oh my God, loved you on the podcast, like loved your insights. And like, yeah, great. Like he was very, very nice, but just didn't know who I was. And that was just a reminder to me, because I've always been a public person in my previous life before cybersecurity, but I'm like along the way had become really behind the scenes. And I was like, yeah, actually, like, I encourage people. And whenever I've mentored someone, I always say, you have to have a personal brand. People need to know who you are. And it's not about like sort of copying someone else on the internet. It's just about finding your own voice and just, celebrating yourself so that others can learn from you as well. So for me, that was really a moment I went, yep, okay, I've kind of like not taking my own advice right there. And I really relate to what you said. It's about like, especially with the kind of roles, I guess, I mean, I would say we are almost kind of doing similar things.
Yeah, for sure.
You become so much part of, so you feel like you're doing a lot in the background, but it's like you're not really celebrating what you're doing. So I completely relate to what you're saying as well. There is that balance piece as well, which you mentioned. And that's, I would admit, one of my biggest struggles, because especially when you're like, doing all the visible things for a company, how do you find that time? And also the energy, like the burnout is a real thing that I'm already posting stuff for my company, but I've got to now find somewhere the bandwidth to post stuff for myself. How do you find that? Or is there's been stuff that's worked?
I mean, I think generative AI definitely helps. I think, I remember in 2023 when ChatGPT first came on the scene, I was working at an agency at the time. And I remember thinking like, well, this is a game changer. And I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about it, how to automate even the AI, right? How to make it work hard for me.
Yeah.
And I remember at work once, like I had a couple people down on my team. People were sick. People were out. It was around Christmas. And someone came up to me and he's like, "Are you okay? Like, how do you do it?" And I remember looking at him and I'm just like, I use a lot of AI in the right ways.
Yes.
I mean, there's a whole like conversation about securing AI and all of that. But yeah, I think if you are stuck, like truly, there's no excuse. Like you have at your fingertips now a sounding board. I get pep talks from my AI in the morning sometimes when I need them. No,
It's
but
a friend you never
it
had.
it is absolutely a friend you never knew you needed. And like, I'm not gonna go into the too far of that zone of like, there's some problematic things as well. But, with that, it is nice to, if you don't have necessarily like a mentor or like someone on your team that is also maybe burning out or like working on their own stuff or truly doing their own jobs. It is one of those things where you are able to like have a sounding board. Like, does this sound right? Like, how do I make this into my own voice? Like, I've trained these models now to be my voice. I haven't explored like the cloning myself yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very tempting. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that has helped immensely. And I just think, that it's the future too of obviously of what we do. But, on the flip side of that, it is super important to remain authentic and be a human because and that's a part of being visible. Like everyone is using AI.
Yeah.
Like I read something this morning on my way here that was, like the AI generated content now for social posts, for email copy, and even landing page copy is becoming so rote and the same.
Yeah.
The words like unlock.
Yeah.
Everyone is now using that because everyone is using AI to scale, which great, good for them. But when you do that, you look the same.
Yeah.
And when you look the same, now you're in that 71%.
Yeah.
That does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like this, you need to make sure that the human element is still there and you're using it truly for brainstorming and support, not the end all be all.
Yeah.
Because if you're using it for the end all be all, then you might as well not be doing it at all.
You just get lost in the noise.
And it's slop. Like that's like, there is, I think in the next year, human generated content will be a flex.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because I was reading something this morning as well. I think it was from one of the universities saying that because people are using so much AI, a lot of like the way like we could think creatively or remember words and stuff, that's actually diminishing already because like it's almost becoming like whether it becomes like a co-pilot versus a crutch. I think that's where they're saying that, it leans more towards that sometimes if you're just consistently using it. So you're so right. Like, whilst it's great, it is like, I always say it's like having many interns with me.
Yeah.
But also you need to be, mindful that it can't really sound like you. It can't sound human. It's funny. I was just, because I do a lot of like social posting, like in my private life just to keep the muscle going. And I was trying to do a voiceover for a personal video. And I tried the whole ChatGPT thing. I'm like, oh, can it like kind of draft up the script? And I'm like, it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Like, as you said, the flowery words and, it'll use like, even our social media team tries to use it, but it'll always come up with something like, have you ever wondered, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no one's wondering.
Nobody's wondering that.
Nobody's
wondering that. And it's like, it's true. It's like AI is a tool.
Yeah.
It is not a voice.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I love that.
And, like I do ask it, like, can you put this in my voice? But my voice, yeah, you've taken your best stab AI because I've trained you so well. I change like 76% of it.
Yeah.
You know, I change a ton of it to make it truly. So yeah, AI is a tool.
Absolutely.
It's not, not a voice.
No. Talking about sort of creating that personal brand, right? Like, and I think it is definitely, and leaning into that AI conversation, it has become more important because, as you said, like now standing away from all that AI, noise is even more important. Like, people have to know that you as a human exist and this is what you think and this is what you feel. How do you balance? People often like shy away from talking too much about themselves, and for a lot of people it can be, when I was much younger, it was very difficult for me. I would just go in, do my work, and I thought that was enough. And one of my early mentors said, Shilpi, you do amazing things, no one knows you exist. So, and for me initially I was like, but I don't really like like my work should be good enough. How do you find that balance, like where for some people it might almost feel like, oh, am I just like tooting my own horn, for lack of a better word, or just spending too much time just talking about things I do? Like, is there a good balance there, or how should people like think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's definitely something I've also run into like early in my career. I think especially for women, sometimes we think when we show up, it's enough. Like our work should speak for itself. Yeah. But we all know, like, we've been around, like that is not the case. Yeah. You don't get promoted because of good work. Mm-hmm. That's definitely part of it. Yeah. But being visible is a bigger, I would argue, bigger part of it. And that is my advice for, younger cousins, younger friends, like people who are just coming up in the working world, is like, your work needs to be immaculate, of course, but you need to be visible. And the way you do that is you do talk about your work, because they have tunnel vision, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, people are always worried about what is going on in their own life. There's this word that I love that I think about all the time. It's called sonder. And it's that meaning of like, random people on the street have a complex life that you have no idea about. Yeah. And that to me is just like such a weird and cool, like obviously they do because they're all humans. Yeah. But like I think about that a lot when I'm going through things, or like I feel like my problems are the biggest problems in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's also just a really pretty word. Yeah. But I think about that too at work and in terms of what I do, because like, first of all, there's no such thing as like a social media emergency. Yeah. Yes, like there could be things happening that are bad, but like it's just marketing. Mm-hmm. It's PR, not ER. No one's going to die. Yeah. But at the same time, like with going back to that word, like sonder, like you have, people have these complex feelings and things that they're dealing with. That applies to like our leadership, our bosses, like they are going through their own things. People have their own things that going on. And so I think for people, women especially, it is really important to speak up. And brag is the wrong word, but it's the first word that comes to mind, right? And about what you are doing, your impact, your results. No one is going to knock you for it. And you would much rather have an executive come and say to you, great job, versus, hey, how did that thing go? Yeah. Like, I'm wondering what your results were. Yeah. People on my team, younger intern, whatever, if they're just starting out, I tell them a lot, like whenever we're asked for a report, we need to show the breadth of everything that we're doing, not just what has been asked of us. Yeah. Because in social, like sometimes people only care about the top line. Yeah. That makes sense. How many impressions did you get? What was the engagement? Yes. But we also have engaged influencers that got X amount of reach. We also have deployed 30% of our workforce through employee advocacy. We've also shared things across these channels, right? Like there's so much more that goes into what we do. And I think, it's a very long-winded way of saying like, it truly is very important to brag about your work.
Yeah. No, I love what you said, especially like, it's funny because when you do say brag, like, we've always taken such a negative connotation behind it. It's almost like you want to make it a good word. Like brag should be a good word. It should
be truly, like I fully agree. And like, there should be no negative connotation with being like braggy or right. Like it truly is. How else are they going to know? Because I guarantee you there are men in other rooms who do the same thing.
Absolutely. And I know, like, I don't want to make this about genders, but it's funny because like I personally have experienced like a lot of this. And like when I was much younger, I was going for a senior leadership role, and in my head I was always, I told my mentor back then, I'm like, oh, but there's so much I don't know yet. So I kind of feel like, and he said, Shilpi, I'm going to say this, and I'm not meaning to like point out genders, but this is true. Being a woman, you're going to focus on the two things you don't. And I know so many men who would, focus on the 5 things that they do. And that is really the mindset you need to have, because no one walking into that room is going to know everything. So just
Yeah.
focus on what you bring to the table and, just, as you said, like be vocal about it, share what you know. And I love the other thing that you said about the fact that people are busy and we just expect that, our work should just speak for itself. And obviously hard work needs to be behind, good work needs to be behind it all. But the fact that you said that, like we're just expecting people to know, and people are time poor. They've got so many priorities. They don't really have the time to kind of, go, okay, this is what Jacqui's done, like, every tiny granular detail to it. And it's celebrating those little things behind those numbers as well, because as you said, so many people have engaged, but who were behind those people? Did someone leave a really good comment? Like for us as well, like we still celebrate like that one message we'll get from someone, like in a faraway place who's seen something and has made a difference. Like it may be one person, but that one person, it's a huge impact. So I love what you've said over there. There are other people in the industry as well at the moment, and you don't have to name names if you don't want to, but are they people, or when you look around the industry, are there stuff happening from this perspective that you think is now worth celebrating? Are you seeing a change in this environment where you are finding more people are making themselves visible? Like I'm only 6 years old in cybersecurity. I'm definitely seeing that across the board. I can see a lot of people making that effort, but are there things that you've seen that you really like are appreciating and saying, I would love to see more of that? Or are there things you would love to see more of that's not happening?
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, yes. And I'm here for it. I think the advent of LinkedIn being like the cool place to hang out now on social media is a great thing for our industry and our people. I think, in the age of social media, when I was pretty much growing up, LinkedIn was like almost like an afterthought.
Yeah.
B2B social back in 2015 was like Twitter, so I think with the advent of that and like LinkedIn truly being a place for B2B professionals to hang out, brands as well as people, that has made a lot of people in our industry much more visible, and also celebrated. Yeah. Like I love when I see people at Palace Networks or even at people like at other companies, but within the industry, like posting anything from promotions to cool things that they're working on. I absolutely love it. Not only can I like steal their ideas, but like not really steal, but like get inspired by their ideas. But it is just so exciting to see that like we are not taking ourselves so seriously. Yeah. And we are able to have fun. And I think too, the other thing that I really like is how brands are showing up on different platforms and then people celebrating that, like senior marketing leadership, right? Like if you look at brands even outside of cybersecurity, like Liquid Death, right? They are doing the most and it's like so fun. Yeah. Not only are they using AI, but they're doing it in ways that like I send to my team and I show them like, hey, not only does this campaign slap, but like their CMO and president came out and talked about it too. Yeah. Like I love that. Yeah. We just did a campaign at Pelton Networks that was really, really fun. And it was a labor of love with our like super senior, like literally our CMO was so involved. And I told him, I was like, you need to brag about this. Like, this is so cool. And it was something that he was able to bring to life with our creative director and obviously people across the organization. But I really, really think that like that is it just helps people it's just such an easy win, right? It's such an easy win to be accessible. It's an easy win to show all the great stuff that you're working on. And like everyone has fans, truly. Like whenever I post something, I know that the Palo Alto Network screw is going to come in hard, right? And I absolutely love that. And when I see people too who even are moved on to other companies and are speaking either on panels or doing really cool things at their new company, it's amazing. Yeah, I love it. No, it's awesome to see.
I think one of the goals that we've always had is to make cybersecurity fun and like tech fun. And I think things have changed so much, and I get so happy when I see people posting like different fun things and like trying to talk about their product and their successes, but in a fun way. And like we're not taking ourselves too seriously as well, because it is such an important topic. But when you hide behind all the tech jargon, it just gets really hard to absorb.
For sure. And I think that's so true. And I think this is a little bit of an older sentiment, but I think it's still valid. But, B2B, it was always like, business to business. At the end of the day, people making business decisions are human. Like they have feelings, right? Sonder, right? Yes. They have feelings, they have emotions, they want to laugh, they want to smile. They don't want everything to be so serious. And we've found so much success in leading with positivity, leading with humor. We actually have been working with, someone who is literally a cybersecurity B2B meme creator. And it is like it's hilarious. And
I
it's
love
like,
that that's actually even
it's a thing.
a thing.
That's a job. And it's what? So yeah, I just think it's one of those, it's the way of the future. And I think like Palo Alto Networks is such a fun place to work if you truly want it to be. And that's not an easy feat, right? As like one of the biggest cybersecurity players in the industry, right? You would think that it's not that way, but it totally is. And the appetite for doing that fun stuff, to get that attention, to make people feel something is why I'm like, I love my job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're so right. Finally, I still can't get over the fact that meme creator is an actual job.
B2B meme cybersecurity creator influencer check.
I mean, we had a hard time convincing like our families that we wanted to be like podcasters full time, and they're like, "What? Like, is this a real thing, not like something you do for fun?" But I mean, that kind of speaks to like where the world is at the moment. Like, you know, we want to connect to things that make us smile, that makes us feel more human, and I think that probably is going to become more and more so as we, you know, go into a like more heavily tech environment, like where things are being automated. I think we're going to look for those little things that make us feel even more human. I think a big part of what you do obviously is also like the reporting and the dashboards and the KPIs and stuff. How do you kind of balance that with, you know, like what are the real impacts? I know you kind of spoke about this briefly before, but how do you balance that with like the real impacts behind the things, or like showcasing the real things that need to be made visible? Is there a good way for that people to do that?
Well, I think on my end, reporting is obviously very important. Like, you need to prove value. You need to show that what you're doing is working. You also need to test things and then pivot if they're not working. And you only know how to do that if you can look at the numbers and be data driven. You know, our team, we're really lucky. We have a beautiful dashboard that has been built through many, many months of labor. But, you know, I can rest. It's not rest. That's the wrong way to say it. But, you know, again, because we are Palo Alto Networks, it is really easy to say that we are doing great because we are a big company. But that doesn't always equal success. And especially in a niche market like cybersecurity, there is a fine line of like what virality or success, like I call it like B2B viral, right? Like of what, like there's no such thing as like, oh my God, there is a fine line. And that to me is like truly testing and testing different formats, different types of videos, different types of content against maybe what, you know, is more traditional, and showing the success and the value of maybe the more social first elements. And so we've been lucky enough to have leadership really trust us to do that. And we did it with, you know, with different products and different product launches, that we had a more traditional marketing video, for example, go out, and then we had our version. And then the numbers, you know, speak for themselves. And it just goes back to everything we've been talking about, right? Making people smile, making them think something. People don't want to be sold to. They don't want to be marketed to, especially like if you think about why they're on different social platforms. It's kind of for a break, you know, not for me.
For you, it's your job.
For me, it's my job. But, you know, people go on LinkedIn, they go on Instagram, they go on TikTok to kind of decompress. Taking that as, again, they're all humans, even if they are big decision makers, you know, making sure that they are getting the kind of content that does resonate at the time when they are maybe switched off, and showing the value from that. But anyway, but to go back to your question, what I will say is I can report on engagement rate, impression volume. I can report on that all day long. But one of the biggest indicators of success for me, just like you were saying that you had that person in that far off world reach out to you and really like something, I know that I have succeeded when I get a text from other social leads in the industry, I get DMs, or I get tagged and stuff, and people know that it's me and my team doing something, and they say how much they like it. Because they are honestly the hardest audience. They are doing this day in and day out. So that to me is like, when I get those, I'm over the moon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so true. And I think people don't value that because it takes so much effort for someone to actually type a message and send it to you. Like if they've, you know, had that reaction and that they've sent it, that's really a validation. And it may be, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, but, you know, the fact that you touched them enough that they felt compelled to message you. And I totally agree. Like we've had similar experiences, and I kind of go, you know what, like that means a lot because something triggered them enough to pick up their phone, type up in the message. And every time I get that, I'm so, you know, sort of happy about it. Like that's, I'm like, that makes all the hard days worth it, because there are a lot of hard days.
Yeah, there are a lot of hard days. And I think the sentiment too of like, you know, social content getting into group chats, for example, is real.
Yeah.
And I do know that, like, you know, your audience, they might see something on a social platform, but they are sending it.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I get a text from, you know, someone who works at a different company, but we've worked together in the past, and they're like, hey, I was scrolling and this made me stop.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I just like, wow.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job, fam. And it's like, we're opening the doors as a big company for others to have fun and to create content like this.
Yeah.
And hey, it probably will benefit everyone at the end of the day
Yes.
if we all kind of zoom out and take ourselves a little less seriously and create content that people care about. Because guess what? Cybersecurity is literally one of the most important things in the world.
Yes. More so even now, like it's amazing. Like even, you know, you sit in a cab as well. Like the other day I was sitting in a cab getting to San Fran, and the person who was driving us, he was like, oh, did you guys hear about the cybersecurity thing in Heathrow? And I'm like, it's a day-to-day. So cybersecurity and AI is all I hear no matter where I go. And it's and I kind of feel really proud that, you know, I'm now a part of something that like touches so many lives. And, you know, but cybersecurity can be very like dry. It can be very like intense
or scary.
Yeah, it's scary. Like, you know, like it's the fear of the unknown and stuff. But how do you kind of like, you know, take away those layers so that people can connect? And it's something that people resonate with. I think that's a really hard thing to do. But in all of that also, not just make your brand visible, but yourself visible as well. So there's lots of
of visibility happening. But also too, like the topics we discuss, like, yes, like we are, you know, very, very big on our product specifications, and, you know, we have these big product moments. But at the end of the day, like October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Like cybersecurity is not necessarily only a boardroom decision. Like people, like consumer cybersecurity is a thing. Like this is important for everyone. Like my grandmother, you know, she doesn't know, like she asked me, she gets things on her phone that her Facebook has been locked and she must click this link to make sure she can unlock her Facebook. Like that is a cybersecurity issue and topic. Absolutely. So it's like, we're not just being visible for, again, like the potential sales we want to make down the line. It is like, we need to have these conversations more generally to be more visible for everyone, because again, death and taxes in cybersecurity.
That's a new slogan.
That's my new that's the new slogan.
Death, taxes, and cybersecurity impacts everyone.
Literally.
That is so true. If there was something, and I know you've like shared some really good advice, and I think thank you for speaking so candidly as well, because I think you've kind of walked the walk and you've kind of shared stuff that I think my hope with this podcast is a lot of people who listen to this kind of either, you know, take that leap of making themselves visible. You know, if they've been thinking about it, they, you know, kind of pick up anything that they can from us, or even just get that nudge and go, you know what, I'm just going to, as you said, just do it.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, you know, in doing all of this across social is like, it truly is testing, and not testing necessarily to always know you're going to succeed. Like I do believe that failure, like I failed plenty of times, like, let's be honest. But, and I know it's, you know, it's not, you know, something that a lot of people say, but failure is important. Like you need to learn fast what does not work.
Yes.
And I have had my fair share of that in this industry and beyond. And it has made me who I am today. But I would say for the individuals looking to become more visible, I really think it's similar to being visible online. Like you just have to do it. Yeah. And again, you will figure it out. You will test and you will learn what works and what resonates. And I think a big takeaway that in, let's say, reporting at an end of the week or QBR or something, if we go back to like, you know, people are time poor, right? They don't have a lot of time necessarily to know exactly every single thing that you are doing. Find out what is most important to them. Yeah. Find out what is most important to them and report on that. Yeah. If you're talking about, you know, percents over benchmarks compared to like all that is great for your team to be super actionable on content strategy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if your CMO necessarily cares about all of those details. So find what matters and report on that, because then you become the most strategic voice in the room, and you're not just someone who takes orders and posts to a platform, because that's not what we do.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, like we are a strategic arm of the company because we are able to show not only our thinking, but then at the end of the day, how it was impactful overall.
Yeah, Absolutely.
And
not.
just post it, honestly.
And just
And
post
just post it.
I think that what you said is perfect because, like that failing fast thing, it's such a, and I mean, I come from a school of being a perfectionist too.
Oh, girl, me too. I'm a Virgo. Like, it's very difficult for me to fail.
Yeah,
Like,
so
it's
it is hard, right? And especially when you're putting something out there in the ether, like, you always think everything should be perfect. But the more you post or the more you try to be visible, you literally realize like you're going to have, like, we've had everything imaginable for the podcast, like, audio not working, video not working, I don't know, guests not turning up. There's everything. And you just have to roll with it and you have to fail fast. And even personally for me, I have always kind of, especially coming into cybersecurity, I'm like, I've never coded. I don't know Python. I don't do any of those things.
I don't know her.
Yeah.
I don't know her.
Like, I don't know any of those things. And I always, like, that imposter syndrome that people talk about. And I know in cybersecurity, actually, it's a great place because there are people who come from all walks of lives. And I think the more I've been here, I've realized it's really not a industry of people who've just come from coding and cybersecurity. There's people from every walk of life. And how do you just find your own little space in this industry? I think that's kind of really, really key. But no, thank you, Jacqui. This has been so amazing. I'm so glad I got to spend time with you and actually talk to you about so many things. I know we meet at so many conferences and you always have amazing outfits, but I'm glad that, Jacqui has amazing, she gives Ashish a run for his money. So, but I'm so glad I was able to like sit down with you, talk through these things, and I'm hoping you'll be back for season 2. But thank you so much. If people do want to reach out to you and, take some hints, tips, advice from you, where's the best place to find you?
I mean, LinkedIn,
all
of
over
course,
the socials.
all over. I'm all over LinkedIn, and also like you can, if you want to be inspired and see the work is reflected on the brand. So Palace Networks on LinkedIn, but I could be found there and Instagram, and I don't really do X anymore.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you can find Jacqui on LinkedIn. But thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you do enjoy the episode and there'll be more coming through for season 1. But follow us and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you for listening to The Visible and we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you would like to continue to listen to us every week, you can follow us on all your favorite podcast platforms. And if you would like to watch us on video, you can find us on YouTube as well. Join us every week as we continue to uncover more stories on how great ideas come to life. We will see you next week.